manager for Manhattan School for Children. Hello.
Just 1 second, we'll have your mics.
I can be loud.
Can you all hear?
No.
I can be louder.
Oh, you're gonna be even louder now that we have a
Now
microphone.
it's gonna really be loud.
Okay.
Hold it just like this.
You have to go close.
Hello.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay. So, do I present?
Please. Yes.
Oh, okay. You want to do it? Okay, so, long story short, we have a construction going on in our school building. We are co-located with 2 other schools. They have taken up the majority of our big yard for construction and safety purposes. So we've tried for the past 3 months since school started to have recess in our yard as it is. But we're running into some problems. Too many kids, too small a space, kids are getting hurt. We have lines at the nurses lately from recess, and they're arguing a lot because the kids are on top of each other. So the PTA has recommended that we close the street on 92nd Street, 93rd Street, and for 2 hours during our lunch and recess time, so that the kids can play on the street. This is going to probably just last until the end of June, when school closes. The construction is supposed to be over by the end of the summer,
And what are those 2 hours?
10:30 to 12:30.
Good lunch at 10.
Only school days.
Yes, well, only school days, and yes, we have lunch at 10:30. That's when lunch starts. Yeah.
Can we just get through the presentation?
I just had a question because
Question of fact? Question of fact?
A fact. No, I'll go ahead.
I don't have much more to
I have a
present.
question.
Well, that's what I
Can you
thought,
just tell
so
us
I had a
about your
question.
school? Is it public school, private school? what
Oh,
grades
sure.
are you in? I know nothing about
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Manhattan School for Children. We're PS 333. We're a public school. Also in the building is MS 258 and MS 256. They are smaller than we are. They're about less than 200 students in each of their schools, so they're okay with the yard. It's just for us. We have 757 students right now, K through 8. We use the yard all day long except for the very first period of the morning, which is morning meeting for students, so they're inside.
So you're K through 8,
Yes.
and K through 8 will mix on the street?
No, they have recess at different times. Kindergarten will stay in the yard because they have recess at the end of the day. We're really looking for the 10:30 to 12:30 slot because that's when 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade have
So you'll
recess.
continue to use the school property,
Yes.
but this will be kind of spillover, for lack of a better word.
Yes.
And how many students would be in the street at any given time?
I would say if we have 2nd and 3rd grade there together, it'd probably be 1 grade, 4 classes, maybe 100 students at a time.
Okay, so on average, there'd be 100 students or less during the 2-hour period?
That's correct.
Of one particular grade or?
Correct. We would probably keep the grades together so that only 2nd grade would be out there, 3rd grade would be in the yard. 5th grade would be out there, 6th grade would be in the yard. 7th and 8th grade, they get to go out for lunch. So the likelihood is that they would not hang out in the yard or the street.
Are we talking every day, including rainy days and really cold temperatures, or?
Okay, so the chancellor says that the kids go out in all sorts of weather. So yes, for really cold days, and yes, for semi-snowy days. But if it's raining or if it's desperately cold, then we have inside recess, which means half the kids stay in the cafeteria and half the kids go into the gym, and then they rotate.
And last, maybe not the last, but what do they do in the street? What will they do in the street?
Well, they would do the same what would they do in the street? They would do the same thing that they're doing in the yard now. So we have a coach out there and several adults who run games for them. So they do, I don't know, there's basketball, because then they wouldn't be playing that on the street, but they do that. They do, they jump rope. They draw with chalk and do the jumping game. Yeah. Mostly, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, they just kind of stand around and they talk to each other and they hang out. It's just a matter of having more space.
Let me just ask, and
Yeah.
then we'll get to these other questions. Who from the school is in the street monitoring the children and the ends of the street in case an accessoride or another type of vehicle that must get through?
Right. So we have adults in the yard. So the adults are assigned, teachers have what they call duty periods, and they go to recess and or the street. They would be supervising the children. School safety would be on the street with us. They would be responsible for letting us know if a car has to move, or if an ambulance has to go by. Everybody would move off the street.
We also have parent volunteers.
Oh, yes.
Committee question?
Sure, committee
Yeah,
questions.
committee questions first. And then we'll take questions from the audience. Yep. Rich?
Ken, did you want to
No, go ahead.
go? So
Let's
two
go back.
questions of seeing if my understanding of MSC is correct. One is that that make MSC somewhat of a unique school. One is that I understand you draw students from throughout the district and not just from a local catchment. And second is that my understanding is that because MSC has an elevator, you attract more students with mobility impairments. Is this both correct?
Yes, both things are true. We are an accessible site. We have elevators in the building. 20% of our students have special needs. We are a lottery school so that you can apply to MSC from anywhere within the district. 3. So you have to live between 59th Street and 122nd Street, between the park and the river. And then you can apply, and it's a lottery. We have, we're a very sought after school. Last year we had over 1,000 applicants for 100 seats in kindergarten.
Ken?
How many adults would be on the street, not the yard, but the street at one time?
There are at least 4 adults with 4.
4 for 100 kids?
4 for 100 kids?
Yeah.
Wait, let her speak if you'll have your
You'll all
chance.
have a chance.
Okay, there are 4 adults at every recess. Plus we have, if there's a child with a special need who has a paraprofessional, they're out there. We also have WICS, which is Wellness in the School. They send us a coach, and the coach is out there. He or she helps us with recess. It's probably 4. Oh, and parent volunteers, but they vary. So officially, you're only required to have a certain number of people at recess at one time. We meet all the requirements for the Department of Ed.
And that 4 includes the school safety? Or is it-
No, they don't.
So
School safety is extra. They're not part, they will be
They
on the
will
street.
be out there also? And how many of those?
Probably you're just gonna get 1,
So 5.
yes. But the school safety will not be watching the students, they will be watching.
So they'll be manning the barriers?
Yes,
And there'll be 2 barriers,
there will be 1 on each end,
but only 1 person to operate them?
yes.
And the yard that you're talking about, is that what's visible from 92nd Street? There's like a basketball.
Yeah.
court.
It's the yard we've always used. We also have an early childhood little yard, we call it the big yard and the little yard. Because of the crowding, we also opened the big yard, the little yard for the bigger kids. We thought that maybe they would go out there and do some reading and kind of just sit and enjoy the day, but they don't. They like to climb and the equipment is too small for them, and they're getting hurt because they hit their heads and whatnot. Mostly it's been, for us, it's been they're getting hurt and there's too many kids together. We're trying to solve that issue.
One other question. Would they be restricted to the street or would they spill over onto the sidewalk?
No, just the street,
Just the street.
not the sidewalk.
Okay.
And the cars would still be there. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to open it up to the community now. What we're going to do is you can have questions, comments. Please limit it to under 2 minutes. So each.
Are you timing?
I'll walk around with the mic.
So
Do we need a timer?
start in the green.
You want to say your name, if it's complicated, spell it.
Oh, Wendy Peace, like peace, love, and happiness. Yeah. I just want a full understanding of if you're talking about closing the street from Columbus to Amsterdam, if it's the whole street.
The whole block.
It would have to be the whole street because you can't close it midway.
I understand, so the kids will have access to the
No, the
whole.
kids would only have access to the front of the school building, when they're not running the whole entire street.
That's what my question was. So the
Okay.
access will be in the front of the school building.
That's correct.
The cars will be parked on the street
That's correct.
and they will be playing soccer.
I don't know that they'll be playing soccer. They probably will do hopscotch and jump roping. I
Okay,
don't
you
think-
just said they were playing soccer earlier, so.
I didn't. They're
No, well, the
playing-
other lady did.
they
No, she
play
said
soccer
basketball in the yard.
I said basketball because we
Right.
have basketball hoops. I do not think, I'm fairly sure that we will not be bringing any balls outside. There won't be any football
Archery.
or soccer or
Archery.
ball. Because no one wants to chase balls.
Well, if there's cars on the street too, there's also damage and there's also a bunch of brownstone houses that people live in. Just one quick thing, you're a little disingenuous, I feel, about your amount of space in the back. I went there yesterday and today between 10:30 and 12:30, and there are 3 very large playground spaces. Now, maybe you only have access to 1, I can't speak to that, but there are 3 gigantic places. There's a 4th one that's under construction.
And there's a gym too.
And there's a gym, and there were kids out there, but there was still plenty of room, and it seems like if there's discipline issues that are happening, that might be a broader question for the school as opposed to having them on the street.
Okay, could I answer that?
Sure.
We only have 2 yards. We used to have 3. The 3rd yard is the one that's right next to the parking lot. That's the one that is, the larger kids.
I took
It's all-
pictures, I have pictures.
You can say what you want. We have a big yard and a little yard and the yard next.
You can say
Hey, wait, one person at a time, please.
Please.
And we do have a gym. We share the gym. I know, but there are 3 schools.
Please.
I'm gonna-
Please.
If you keep interrupting, you're going to have to leave.
I'm gonna explain that there are 2 gyms in the building. We have access to 1 gym. 1 gym for 757 students. Only 1, because the 2nd gym is on the 2nd floor and there are stairs that leads down into the gym. We can't use it for any student with any needs, special needs who has a wheelchair. And we share the building with 2 other schools. They're middle schools, and they share the 2 gyms on the 2nd floor. So 400 students share 1 gym on the 2nd floor, and we have the basement gym.
So the 3rd spot that other.
Wait,
kids-
wait,
Can I
wait,
turn it over to
okay.
someone else, please?
Okay.
We have a new floor manager here, or do you
Yes.
people control the meeting?
He said
Madam,
2
let
minutes.
these people talk.
He
It's
said
their
2
home if they're worried about it.
I live on that block. I have
Here's the deal.
Here's the deal.
I will bring the mic around. People need to wait their turn. If you're disruptive, then we'll just end this part of the meeting.
My name is Ethel Sugarman. I live at 175 West 93rd. And I think this is the most short-sighted, idiotic idea I've heard in 43 years that I've lived there. What happens if you have a moving van that wants the service entrance to be wants to be right outside the service entrance of my building, 175 West 93? What happens if there's an emergency, somebody has a heart attack, and an ambulance wants to, you know, scream their sirens and get right in the front of the building from Columbus or any of the buildings? They're gonna have to park around the corner. What are they gonna have to do? Or deliveries to service entrances. Plus, you're in a space that's not enclosed, so it's less safe for the kids because they can scoot out between parked cars. The cars could get damaged from where they're parked across the street. They can get damaged. I just don't understand the rationale of this at all. I mean, and I also heard that the construction was gonna be 4 years, not a year and a half. I heard the construction was gonna take 4 years.
Couple of questions there.
So, the ambulance first, so that's the reason why school security will be out in order to open the street in case ambulances or accessorized need access to the street. It's not that hard. I know you think it's a hard, hi Winnie. I'm hanging in there. This is rough. I'm sorry. I lived on the Upper West Side for like 20 years. I lived on 90th Street in Amsterdam. My children went to public school. I helped run the, I'm just saying, I understand your questions and concerns, but this is not a new thing, right? Other schools have play streets because they don't have access to a gym or a yard. So the ambulance, that's why you only have to open one side. That's where, because the traffic goes this way, that's the side that has to be open. When school security opens that side, the kids will be moved. We move kids all the time, from inside to outside. We have school aides, we have teachers, we have paraprofessionals, and we have the WITS guy. I don't remember the other questions.
That was the most important.
Delivery, furniture delivery.
Okay, all true. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how they do it in other play streets. I would imagine that between 10:30 and 12:30, it's gonna be an issue for delivery. I don't know what else to say.
Or if somebody has a heart attack.
Okay, if anybody has a heart attack, I'm sure we can get one. We have nurses in our building who could probably help them. And when the ambulance comes, we're gonna open the street. I don't know how to address a person having a heart attack.
Yeah, well, you're looking for a lawsuit.
Okay.
My name is Irena Stenin, and I live at 100 West 93rd Street. And I think that this plan is short-sighted. And I also think it's a ruse. I don't think this is going to be permanent. I think once this place, temporary. I think once this comes in, based on the census, based on the number of students in that building, this co-location, this building has far too many students in it. And that's why you're facing this issue, regardless of the construction. And so I think that this is, the camel sticking its nose into the tent, and I don't think we're going to get it out. I have 3 other points to make very briefly. First of all, I wouldn't put anything on 93rd Street until Trader Joe's comes in and we can assess the impact of that supermarket on the corner of 93rd Street. I think it is irresponsible to put anything on West 93rd Street until this committee and this board and this community on 93rd Street has a chance to assess the impact of that supermarket. That's the first thing.
Irena, when is that scheduled to open?
Excuse me?
When is that scheduled?
It was supposed to open in the fall, and now I think it's going to be early next year. Secondly, 2 more points. Secondly, your existing schoolyards are on 92nd Street. I don't understand why you're not applying for a play street on 92nd Street. where you don't have the same impact that you would have on 93rd Street. And lastly, you're talking about 10:30 to 12:30, when in fact, because you have such a high population of special needs children, the buses that come onto 93rd Street start as early as 8, and the traffic backs up from the school to Columbus and then north on Columbus Avenue. So really what you're saying to us is the impact that we've already experienced from having a school on our block, and I'm not criticizing it. It's going to start from 8 o'clock, and it's not really going to end until sometime 12:30 and 1. And I think that that is a lot to impose on a community.
Could we just respond to 2 of those?
Sure.
So the question of 92nd Street versus 93rd Street, the PTA spent a lot of time looking at both streets. 92nd Street has its own congestion issues. There are 2 schools that use it. So there's the Manhattan.
Use it as a place.
No, just, I mean, there are buses. There are 22 buses for the Manhattan Children's Center, and they already shut it down twice a day. So I think there are concerns for both streets. We made the decision to try 97.
And you want to address coming of Trader Joe's?
Here, and then we're gonna come back
What may be a lot of
there.
truck traffic coming down 93rd Street, or needing to come down 93rd Street?
The question is about 93rd Street.
I wasn't gonna address it, Trader Joe's. I just want to assure the board and neighbors that we are not interested in having a Clay Street. We're really not. We're addressing an issue that has come up because of construction in our building. It's a safety issue for us, and it's too crowded in the big yard. That is our only motive to close the street for 2 hours on Monday through Friday during school days. We are not planning on continuing this. We don't want to do it next year. We don't want to really be here again to say to you, we want to continue this. We don't. We have enough space during a regular time when our yard is not being taken over by construction and construction materials. We do have children who come by bus. They are dropped off where the ramp is on that street, and then the buses move. The reason why you might see buses there during the day is because we also have trips. So when students go on field trips, which happens every day just about, they park on the street, the kids come down, they load the buses, and they go. The buses don't stay there throughout the day.
My name is William Glenn. I'm from 123 West 93rd. I just wanted to say, in addition to what she said about the street being somewhat tied up for the buses, that it happens during the afternoon as well. It starts around 2 o'clock with them convening on the street, traffic is backed up, and then it goes until all the kids are, have boarded and leave. So that's another couple of hours during the day that the street is impeded because to facilitate the function of the school. My other point or question was, have you done a sort of analysis of how much time it would take to safely 100 students, many of which have special needs, off the street in case of some resident has an emergency? Because minutes make a tremendous difference and there's a large elderly population to our community. It's old, and these people, when they need help right away, and it's really scary to think about someone that has had a heart attack or some sort of failure having to wait to have 100 students, many of whom need extra help and aren't ambulatory, move safely off the street. You'd be dying.
We move students every day We move them into the yard and out of the yard, into the classrooms and out of the classrooms, students with special needs and students who move. I'm gonna tell you in a minute. We have evacuated our building 8 or 9 times this last 3 months. We can evacuate our building in 4 minutes.
So that's an enclosed.
But we can we evacuate over 1,000 people several times during the month in 4. I can show you, you can go online and do it. We have also done lock-in drills. It takes us less than 10 minutes to lock our building up. We've been doing this for a very long time, and we have been helping students with special needs for a very long time. And every child who's not ambulatory, who is using a wheelchair or a walker, has an adult with them at all times. So those children are always being helped wherever they need to go.
Okay, I have 2 prompt questions.
Your name?
Karen Dale, and I live right next to the school in 134. I would like to second the thought that there are loads of elderly people on the street. My building is very large, family building. Half of the tenants are elderly now because it's half more stabilized. There are ambulances coming into that street, I would say every day. So somebody's there, welfare buildings across the street from us, there's always emergencies, police cars, ambulance cars, and so forth. So that's a problem. I don't understand logistically what you're proposing. Are you in fact proposing that the street be closed to parking altogether during the week? No. Because if you're not, then with alternate side parking at 11:30 in the morning, everybody gets out and moves their car from one side of the street where they can't park someplace else. So I don't know how you're going to do that at 11:30 in the morning unless you blocked off the street and prevented people from parking there at night. And you can't police that.
That's what I thought.
This is not something new. There are schools that have play streets, so I'm sure that our answers to those questions. My understanding from living in the neighborhood is that the cars stay, they don't move. So they don't move for street cleaning or if you have to leave and move your car, I have seen people move the children and then the car gets out and then the children come back. I don't know what to tell you. I have seen that.
You should know what to tell us.
I am telling you what I have seen and how it works.
All right, just wait for your turn.
Yeah, that seems very cumbersome to me and fraught with problems. And then the other question I have, however, has to do with your procedure here, your process. Have you actually sat down with members of the community, certain people from the neighborhood, to discuss not just specifically how you envision this to work, but specifically what alternatives there may be, either on the school grounds or in the neighborhood, involving certain areas where there are setbacks and there are safer spaces on the sidewalks, which I do believe there are on 92nd Street near the Trinity School where there is a setback, but that's something that should be explored by a joint effort with the community and not to do this willy-nilly and impose it on the community.
Okay, so my understanding is this is the first step in having this conversation, other than having our own internal conversation and deciding that something needed to be done. The decision was that we would apply for a play street. And we started the process and we're here.
Hello. Hi. How you doing? My name is Ivory Gilliard. I live at 100 West 93rd Street. And I have pictures of the yards. You actually do not have 1 yard, you have 3 yards. You have a basketball court next to the construction. You also have construction in the large yard. So I won't accept that you can't put them there to play. You also have something I personally find offensive. You have a parking lot in the back of the school. We pay, I pay $35,000 in income tax to have a private parking facility for the teachers. Days a week, 24 hours a day. That space can be converted to a play area and even a basketball area. And again, that doesn't include our property taxes. I'm in a 35% tax bracket, and I don't get that back when I do my taxes. When I go in the back, and I have pictures, there is a large space where the parking is that they use for their own, I don't know who's using it, private facility. By the way, isn't it $500 a month for us to park in the building? They should not be parking there. That basketball area, the 2 yards together, is 2/3 the size of the large yard. That can be utilized for the children to play and completely eliminate this. It would also go to show that our tax dollars that we are paying for this public school that our children don't get to go to utilize this space. You have space. You choose not to utilize it. It is offensive to us. We would like you to first utilize the space you have and then say we don't have enough space. The other thing is that if you have 3 other schools, those 2 schools are not public schools, they're charter schools. They're there by option.
They're not. They're public schools.
Okay, well, you know what you can do? Since you have the school, and the gentleman said, the street is blocked from 7:30 when I leave to take my son to school until 4 p.m. because the schools all let out at different times and start at different times. So the street is always blocked no matter what. My point is that you have a parking lot, a space, a play space that's inappropriately being used as a private parking facility, and you have a basketball space that has basketball hoops, has marks, and empty that you're not utilizing. So you don't need a play space, and it's just my personal opinion. I feel that you have a false sense of entitlement that we owe you something. We pay and pay and pay and pay, and we would like to see a return on our pay.
And the teachers get free parking permits.
And they get city, state, and federal holiday pay that we pay for. You should park in the street.
Okay, every school has designated parking spots. The designate, because we are, yeah, because they assign, they give out passes for the UFT and for street park, yes, but that's correct. We receive we have, at MSC, we have 100 teachers in schooling. For 100 of them, they each can have a parking permit based on the deal that the UFT and the Department of Transportation have made. And what they've done is, on 93rd Street, they've allocated a length of street where teachers can park. 92nd Street, sorry, 92nd Street. So they can park on 92nd Street between, I don't know, it's not the whole block. It's from our entrance to the backyard to maybe halfway. It's the middle of the block. We don't have both sides of the street, we only have one side. And all 3 schools share that length of parking spaces. Because there isn't enough, the Department of Education has allowed the school to have a parking spot. Those spots are taken up by people with permits. So they have permits to be there. Now, if you see a car, lately, if you see a car parked overnight, it's construction. Construction workers come in at 4 o'clock, they're parking in the yard, and because they work from 4 to midnight. So that's the parking situation. The basketball court, we do have 3 yards. I said that earlier. We have a yard that the big kids use next to the parking lot. That yard has a basketball hoop. That yard right now is a staging area for construction. We don't have use of that yard. Construction then, because of the safety issue, has taken I don't know, 50 feet from the side of the building so that they've encroached in two areas of the big yard. And that's what's causing our problem. The big yard is where most of our students go for recess. The other little yard is an early childhood yard. It has equipment for children from K to maybe second grade. We have been able to manage all these years, keeping children inside until this year. And we have tried for the past 3 months to do so, and it's not working. We needed a solution. This Play Street is working.
This woman raises a very troubling allegation because there is school property that's being used to store cars, and so you want to block the street instead of.
They're not storing cars.
They're there overnight. They're there past midnight. They're there overnight.
Because, well, I don't know about the cars overnight.
I can tell you, I
cars-
take
I
my
know, they're not supposed to be there.
But they
The
are.
cars are there, the cars you see after 4 o'clock, except for my
But
car.
but during the day, why can't that be used for the students during the day?
In order to do so, then they have to increase the number of slots allowed on the street for parking.
Okay.
They're empty.
Fine.
The parking spots are empty on 92nd Street. They're empty. They don't have to
People, what we're gonna do now, I'm gonna walk around. I'm gonna ask you not to talk. People,
No, they're not.
in order for this meeting to proceed in an orderly fashion, I'm asking people not to speak out of turn. I'm gonna walk around with.
I just have one more, I just need to get my head around this. So there is a lot that has cars that you will not use for students. I just don't, I know they park there, but do they, why can't?
Yeah, it
So the
is,
teachers are not willing to give up their parking spots so the children can play? That you're asking these residents to close down their street?
I will just, I can answer that. The parking lot is not just for our school. It's also for the District 3 Board of Ed, plus the 2 other schools. So it's not as, if it was that easy for us to use that space, we would not be here asking for this.
But I just want to know, why is it not easy? Why can you not use that space for the students?
They don't control it.
We don't control it.
So who controls it?
Board of Ed.
District 3 Board of Ed.
How do
Why
you
don't you go to
spell
the Board of Ed? So let's go to the Board of Ed.
no, okay, so the reason why it's there is because there isn't enough space. It isn't, I know what you're
It's
saying,
empty on
Please,
92nd
please,
Street. There are
this is not
parking
a debate.
spots all day.
but we're not allowed to park on 92nd Street. We only,
Can we go on to some more questions?
Sure. Here's a Google map picture of the.
What's your name, please?
Joseph Coulter. I live at 175 West 93rd Street. And before you all leave, I'm reconstituting our block association. So if you would like to be on the mailing list, I'd love to have you all join me. Anyway, thanks for letting me do that commercial. Here's a picture of the basketball court where you say all the equipment is. This is a Google Maps picture from a couple days ago. There's nothing in that basketball court, and it's a huge spot, huge. The other question,
That's from October 2016.
This picture?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Check
this
the
is-
date of the
there's-
photograph.
I thought it was.
there's the, you can go
Take
down.
the
We went by, well,
I have the one.
she went by and she didn't see anything in there. Anyway,
There are
the
trailers
parking
in
lot,
there.
when I moved into the neighborhood, where those cars are parked, were 3 basketball courts that had baskets against the building of 176 West 93rd Street. Kids played there all day long. Right now, there's 30 cars there that don't have permits to park on school property. Those permits that you get are for street parking. They're not for turning a playground into a parking lot for free. When I have to spend $600-700 a month to park my car, and you get free parking and leave your cars there overnight, it's absurd. The other question I have is about Trader Joe's. The street is full of handicap mobiles all day long. They come and go. Buses come and go. There's always a police car parked in front of the building almost every day because there's some emergency in the building. And the impact of Trader Joe's on our block is going to be tremendous. If nothing else happened, it's going to be a very, very busy street. And kids running between cars when an ambulance is running down the block is completely crazy. A child running out between a parked car. We have street cleaning. When is our street going to get cleaned? When will we be able to move our cars? When can delivery men we can barely arrange to have deliveries made to our buildings because we have to go through insurance and arrangements and elevators. And now you're blocking out the whole morning where nothing can be delivered. Workmen can't get to the building. Anyway,
Your 2 minutes are up.
2 minutes are up. Okay. I think it's a very, very bad idea. You can utilize the school space much better.
Okay, I'm gonna ask people, we've heard a few complaints about Trader Joe's. Board members are paying very close attention. So if a point has been made and made well, just say ditto and make your new point of view a new point. If you've agreed with people who've spoken before, say I agree with them. We'd like to hear everybody, but we also want the board members to have time to have a thorough discussion.
Hello, my name is Janice McCrory. I live at 175 West 93rd Street as well. There are 5 high-rise buildings on West 93rd Street. There is 1 high-rise building on West 92nd Street. Our building alone has 175 units. That's not counting 100. How many, I don't know how many units. Okay, 79, 89, we're hearing. The building on West 92nd Street has 200 units total. Now, it's imperative, as everybody has said, that emergency vehicles get down our street, as well as the deliveries that people have mentioned. We also have quite a few elderly people, as they mentioned before, that have trouble getting around. We walked on West 92nd Street today, my husband and I, and saw that they're starting at, say, 148 West 92nd, going up the block. It's perfectly wide open for you people to put your play street there. There's no reason why. Why can't you do that?
Thank you.
Let me respond.
I mean, it's already been said, let's move on.
The group of parents that live at 92nd Street, I think they're concerned on both streets.
Let's let people just.
My name is Terry Siegel. I live at 175 West 93rd Street. And I probably go back further in this community than anybody else. Not only did I graduate from Dover, I also graduated from PS 93, which was on the corner of 93rd and Amsterdam. I can tell you that when Joan of Arc was built, there was no parking spaces back. That was one big yard, and it was wonderful. And yes, there was basketball, and I used to jog around it in the morning. And then about 25 years ago, somebody blocked it off and made parking spaces. If you need more parking spaces, take the sidewalks and don't take the play areas. Now, I'm very curious about something. I walked around today, and I looked at open spaces in the community, and I thought, well, I'm very curious as to whether you guys do. For instance, how long is the recess for anyone child? How long are they out there?
The time we're asking for is students rotate in 30 minutes.
30 minutes, okay. So it's possible that you could use the enormous playground space on 92nd Street between Columbus and Central Park, which was totally empty when I passed today, behind PS 84. I mean, has anyone spoken to them? Has anyone spoken to Trinity, which has this gorgeous new playground on top of their school? How about 711 Amsterdam Avenue, which has a big space behind them? Nobody uses it during the day. How about Central Park? And I just want one more thing about the Trader Joe's. I went into the 100 West 93rd today, and I said, do you have any idea where the deliveries are coming from? Are they coming on 93rd? Or are they coming on 92nd? And he said, I don't know. I said, I don't know either. I just walked around. Well, has anybody figured out with Trader Joe's?
It's 92nd Street between Columbus and Amsterdam. Because they blocked the back of the building where they have the no standing deliveries only. They have 2 garage entrances. They're going to use that. And that's 92nd. Yes. So it's Columbus and Amsterdam.
Yeah, please.
You think people?
I just want to respond quickly to the question.
How do you let a few more people speak?
or just
Specific question.
the specific
What's your name,
question?
please? What's your name?
No. Oh, Terry Season.
No, I got yours. No, I know the next person.
No, they're responding.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm just gonna quickly respond to the question of, did we look at other spaces? The short answer is yes, because recess is such a short period. Moving the students to Central Park, which does seem like would make sense on the face of it, but by the time you got through Central Park, they have to come back. The same with
Not
that quickly, unfortunately.
We've
So,
had this issue on other places, and the movement takes up a lot.
And using and sharing another school yard is not, doesn't work either. PS 84 has their own students, there are classes there, they have recess.
About 7-Eleven, dance jam.
That's still moving
Let's
the
ask the
children.
next question.
I'm Cheryl Van Houten, I live at 124 West 93rd, and I'm also on the board and represent the board for this meeting. And we have some serious concerns, all of which have been voiced tonight. But one question I have that hasn't come up is, you have 100 children that you're considering that are going to be out at any one time, is that it?
Possibly, yeah.
Okay, so that's 100 children over a 2-hour period, and we're talking about hundreds of people being inconvenienced. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's not, it's 100 children per 30 minutes. Where it's a grade, it's each grade gets to go out. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th grade, they rotate in and out of the yard for 30 minutes. So children are inside, they're eating.
So you still have a large yard that you're going to be using. You're rotating the children in and out of the yard. You have the gym. Wouldn't it be smarter to have this impact the children over this many months than hundreds of people or maybe thousands? I mean, I just don't understand it. And then also impact on the teachers. I mean, why can't you all take some of the brunt of this rather than inflict it upon the residents of 93rd Street?
Okay.
My name is Cheryl Falter, and I'm 175 West 93rd Street. I'd like to know about the street cleaning. Does that mean that we won't have our streets cleaned?
Yeah.
For months at a time?
Yeah.
How about if you need to move your car? What will happen then? You have to get out quickly. And you have all these, they're really gonna round up 100 children in a few minutes. I find that hard to believe, especially if it was in a playground, I could see it. But not with parked cars. It seems very dangerous to the children.
The children are only going to be using the space in front of our school. So they're not in the whole street. We don't have to corral children.
Then that's too small.
Please let her speak. Excuse me.
What we are trying to do is use enough space to alleviate the stress in what used to be the big yard, which is now cut from construction. And children will still be in the yard, and children would be outside in front of the building having recess. So that you're not gonna have the whole grade outside, you're gonna have some children inside in the yard and some children out on the play street. We're trying to alleviate an issue that we've been dealing with for 3 months now. We've tried to solve it on our own by using our own inside spaces. It's not enough. We're talking about 700.
Has the construction begun?
Yeah.
We're never gonna get it?
No.
Or no one's allowed to burn it. Grass.
All right, let's.
Okay, I don't know the answer to the street cleaning issue. My
You need to know that,
understanding.
but you need to know.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't know. My understanding was that you would not have to move your car if that became a play street.
So the street never gets cleaned.
And garbage picks up every other
Excuse me,
play street though has no
Excuse
cars
me,
on it.
we can find out the answer to that.
Every other play street has no cars.
How you doing? My name is Nick Alba. I'm at 175 West 93rd Street. I've been living there for almost 30 years already. When I first moved in the neighborhood, my children used to play in the schoolyard. Before they refurbished it, they spent a lot of money fixing it. And after they fix it, they put this fence right in the middle. Okay? Now that stopped all the kids from playing there. It's troubling that you guys have all this space in there and it's not being utilized. Have you spoken to the people doing the contracting and find out if they can set up a staging area on top of the scaffolding? Because most construction sites, that's what they do. Okay? Have you spoken to them?
Yeah, I actually sit on the construction committee. That was not an option. They thought about putting the trailers and everything else on the roof, because what they're doing is they're working on the top of the building plus the sides of the buildings. They're it wasn't an option for them to do.
I'm familiar with that, and you gotta understand, right now, 93rd Street is being impacted from 4 o'clock, no, let me correct myself, from 8 o'clock in the morning till midnight from the school, just from the school. If it's not the traffic, if the construction goes on till midnight. So here we are. Why didn't they work during the summer if you're on the construction committee?
They did work during the summer.
No, they did not. I'm sorry, they did not work this summer.
Look, they were supposed to work during the summer. If you want to talk construction, I'd be more than happy to have you come over and we'll talk construction. Trust me, we don't want to be under construction any more than you do. But what happened was they couldn't work because of there were issues with the contractors and all of these things. We had one and
we had contractors in my
we
building.
ain't paying for it. The school, look, the school is paying for it. I understand that impacts you as well, but this is our home. This is 1,000. It's 1,000.
You used to live in a neighborhood.
I did.
You did. Past tense.
But I'm here every day. Every day I'm here from now until 10 o'clock at night. And we have 1,000 people in that building right now. We have 700 and whatever students who need a play space. They need to get out. I know that it might seem that it's not such a big deal, but it is. Because students need to get out every day. They do.
They do that now. They do that now.
Yes, but it's not safe. It isn't safe with the yard.
Teachers and make it safe.
If you
Add
had
more
Because
teachers.
it's too many
Add
kids
more
in a
teachers.
small space.
I went by, there was tons of room. There's tons of room.
There isn't.
wait patiently for my 2 minutes.
Sorry. No. Sorry. No, it was my fault. Let him speak. Sorry.
Okay. You mentioned earlier, was any survey done to see what the impact on the neighborhood is going to be?
No.
On the traffic? Because what's going to happen now, the only westbound street on that area, because 95th Street doesn't count. Okay? That doesn't count. So everything's going to switch over to 96th Street, which is already overburdened with traffic plus construction. Okay? And then that's going to move everything over what, to 91st Street as well? Isn't that street closed for a school there as well? So where are the cars going to go when they're trying to cross town? 96th Street only? Or 86th Street?
Police call. We have another question back here. All right. Your name, the mic.
This is Sir Hello West, 1931, 23. How does the proposal deal with the commercial garage that is just 100 feet west of 100 feet? Is that going to be available? You can't close down business. I would also entertain, like the board, and help you set the city about how quickly city projects get done.
You guys do the summer street fairs, and I have to tell you, you guys do not clean up after the street fairs. So it takes away a lot of confidence from me in you when I have to drive over hot coals and park my car there after you guys clean the street after the fair. They don't.
Wait, the school does not clean the streets.
But they dirty them when they do the street fair.
The school does not.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. We do one every year, one fair a year.
Don't say you don't do it.
I know, but we haven't because of construction.
No, you missed 1 year.
You missed 1
Okay,
year.
people, is there anyone that has not spoken that has a question?
My name is Teresa Campbell, and I just want to know about the safety of pedestrians. I personally try not to go out in the street when school lets out.
Right.
I'm really struck.
Right.
These kids are very energetic. We have elderly people walking up and down the sidewalk, and now you have all this whole crowd of kids now. I'm just thinking, there's a lot of opportunity for the future.
Okay, the goal is to keep the kids on the street and not on the sidewalk.
Right, but you can't control them in a confined space.
But they're gonna step
You know,
out
if
of
you
the
keep
school
yelling out-
building into the street. They're not gonna walk up to the street, they're just walking. And our classes walk now, they come out of the school building, they walk down the block to get into the yard because they can't, because of construction, they can't go through the inside of the building. So they are already, for the past year, they've been using the sidewalk to get to and from the yard.
I just know when they let out of school, it's like mayhem.
Yes, but it's
Kids are
everybody.
running, they're running fast.
But it's all students are being dismissed. And we don't dismiss at different times. We dismiss, the schools in the building dismiss within 5 minutes of each other so that you don't have that. So 2 of the schools dismissed on 92nd Street and we dismissed on 93rd Street to try to alleviate some of it.
One more question. People back here.
Roberta.
Oh. We're only calling on people who have not spoken.
Can we ask the committee a question after?
Leonard Piccarello, I have the brownstone right across the street. That's not a real play area. In the front, it's very dangerous for the kids. Aside from all the other things that impact on the neighborhood, it will take no more than 2 weeks before some kid breaks his arm. The street is only, the sidewalk is only 6 feet wide. All the brownstones have very steep steps. Whenever you have a street fair, the kids play hide and seek there. They run around, and if you got second graders running around there, you're gonna be traveling back and forth to the hospital, and I'm gonna too. So for me, it's I would love to help you, but for me, it's ridiculous.
Well, I came late and I apologize if I'm asking questions that have already been asked. I live on 175 West 3rd Street, the West Wing. One of the unpleasant aspects of living there is the noise that comes from the school in the morning, noon, and after the school is let out. Another unpleasant feature is that police cars, ambulances, and fire engines use that street to access Broadway and Amsterdam. And it's a regular occurrence that police cars are parked outside the high-rise 22-story building across the street from the West Wing, which has to have at least 220 apartments in it, and it's very low income and problematic. I wonder if you've spoken to the delivery services, UPS, and FedEx about the restrictions that will occur. Have you spoken to the local precinct? Because I did that, and they seem unaware of this proposal and its implications for their squad cars. Have you spoken to the local fire department, whose engines come down there? Have you done any of that?
So the advice that we got was to start here and then move forward if this was approved here. So it's on our radar. Those are important conversations to have.
All right, we're only gonna call on people that have not spoken. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sharon Deegan. I live at 175 West 93rd Street. A couple of troubling things about this whole thing. First of all, we were not even made aware of this meeting until we saw a sign, which our super put up on the trees. We were not even aware of this. I'm only a skeptic, but I think that this was kind of planned to be slipped under the rug because we are supposed to be notified. This is a very, very important event that's about to take place. Secondly, as it's been said before,
The memo says that it's supposed to take place the end of the school year and the summer, and code word, it said probably. Probably is code word for what everybody else has been echoing. It just goes on and on and on and on, and we've heard this construction is going on for years. So, you know, it's a little disingenuous. And thirdly, the noise thing, we've been patient with the construction up until midnight at night, we can't sleep. But now during the day, we have to listen to screaming outside our window. It's just asking a lot of people.
Not to mention the greenhouse.
My name is Bob Cantor, I live in West 175 West 93rd Street. My question is, was there a study done of West 92nd Street to use for your purposes? That should be done before anything here is voted on. I think there's more room there to do what you need to do.
My name is Yael Dresner. I live at 123 West 93rd Street. From your write-up, we have incidences, or the increased number of incidents. Those range from students being hurt to students arguing as they get into each other's space. You can't control and manage your students in a yard. How are you going to control and manage students who can hide behind cars, who can run down the stairs into the brownstones, and who can run in the open space, in the sidewalks, in the street, if you can't manage them in the yard?
My name is Paul Vale. I live at 134 West 93rd Street. Has anybody done a traffic study on that street at all in general? There are two commercial garages on that street, and people are coming and going out of those places, you know, all the time. And there are cars that park 24/7 in front of the school. And I mean, they all have, you know, permits on them, but, you know, there used to be, you know, there was a time when buses pulled right up against the thing. There hasn't been any street cleaning on that side of the street for now maybe 5 or 6 years, it seems. You know, and, you know, but there's people parking there all day long.
That's because they weren't in the building and they have permits to park?
I thought that was for school buses.
We don't, no, they're not.
They're asked them to move out of the way.
When no standing zone in front of your school.
You can't ask the teacher to leave the classroom to move on. That's why they give teachers the permits to stay on the street and not have to move them.
Okay, people, I think everyone that wanted to speak has spoken, and who has not spoken? What's the question for the board?
I would like to know if there's an opportunity for us to vote to make them convert the parking spots that they have in the back of the school to the play area, and for us to vote to make them take the construction material, and since they have parked 2/3 of the block for parking.
Well, here's the problem. We're advised, Community Board 7 is advisory. What's gonna happen tonight is there'll be a discussion. There may be a recommendation to the Board of Education to not have the parking in a lot, which I think I don't know what's gonna happen. This is what the board can do. If there is a resolution tonight, it will go to the full board at the January 2nd board meeting. If there is not a resolution, then it won't go anywhere.
Will we be notified?
Have you signed in on
Yes. Yes.
Well, actually, they won't. No, they won't. So here's people. Wait. I'm going to tell you how to do this. People, listen up carefully. So you will know what happens tonight because you're going to stay to hear the end of this discussion. At the end of the discussion, we will tell you what's going to happen next. The meeting will be January 2nd. It will be on our website, and the agenda will be on the website, and there will be an opportunity for, if there is a resolution tonight, there will be an opportunity for a short time for public people to speak. And I'll be glad to meet with you ahead of time and help you prepare how you want to handle that. I believe that meeting is at Broad of Shalom, which is 7 West 83rd Street. And the meeting starts at 6:30. There is a public session at the beginning of the meeting, and we then go into, but let's wait and see if we have a resolution tonight or not.
Can I just make a suggestion?
Yeah, quickly, yeah.
Is it possible to have a meeting at the school at 93rd Street?
No.
That's a public area.
No.
That's-
We are a community board that deals with the whole community from 59th Street to 110th Street, from the Hudson River to Central Park. We have 10 standing committees. Many of these committees will have resolutions, so there will be, I don't know at this point how long the agenda will be because it depends how many resolutions each committee, but there may be 10 issues, there may be 20 issues. At the moment, I don't know. So I'm turning it over. We'll answer. I'm Roberta Seymour. I'm Chair of Community Board 7. I will be glad to answer any questions after the board discussion.
Okay, quickly, yes. Well, let's hear what we decide at this meeting.
But the answer is yes,
Yes,
because there's always the full board
Yeah.
discussion. We're taking this up if there's a resolution.
Anything we decide to do here has to be approved by the full board. So we're just a committee of the board. So any decision we take here has to be approved by the full board.
Our board consists of 50 people, and I will be very glad to take comments afterwards. I'll meet with you at the hall. But right now, it's almost 8:30. I think our board members need to discuss.
Okay. Who on the board has comments? Ken.
Well, I've been on the board for 9 years now, and I've heard a lot of Play Street discussions. And I have to say the same issues come up over and over. And the same fears. There's one fear I do want to address, which is the safety concern about ambulances getting through. I never hear people complaining about double parking. And I live on a cross street, and the biggest problem on that street is delivery trucks double parking because of the way we decided to allocate our on-street parking to free parking for private vehicles. And we got a large truck, somebody moving in or out, and an ambulance can't get by. And then they can't find the driver. And it can go on, I've taken pictures, it can go on for 20 minutes, and somebody really could die. This would not happen in this case. Kids can scatter a lot quicker than finding a driver for a truck. So I think we should not, that's not a big concern.
You want kids scattering?
So,
Wow.
kids,
This is the board's time to talk.
I also understand that if we vote for this, if we approve this in some form, that the DOT would have to finally approve it and do a draft impact study. So that's their job, not our job. I think we're only talking about 5 months. We can make the resolution. We can make,
Excuse me.
we can write the resolution so that they have to come back to us for next year. And I would
Yes,
propose
we do.
that.
That happens.
I would propose that. And I would not be averse to something in the resolution saying, we deplore the use of school property for storage of private vehicles where there's teachers or anybody else. And we think that school property should be used for the kids, for whom it was intended. But I can see the reasons why that is beyond the school's control at this point. And so I think I would.
We could have a letter. We could have a letter.
We could have a letter.
I want to say a few things. I know my co-chair is going to bring up the issue, but I think we will at least at some point have something to say about the Board of Ed parking policy in that
in that yard, and if that's a good use of that space. I would say that 93rd Street is a special case, and I think we have to tread very carefully on this. First of all, I believe Trader Joe's, after they open, are going to use 93rd Street for a lot of their deliveries, coming and or going. And I don't know where those trucks would go if this was turned into a play street. 95th Street is a special case. It dead ends at Amsterdam Avenue, and that obviously could not be used as a substitute for 93rd Street. So I think there would be a lot of doubling around of the truck traffic coming to and from Trader Joe's. So I think we need to look very carefully at this space versus other spaces. And I'm not convinced that yet that everything has been done to find a safe space for the children to play in, including the possible use of 92nd Street, which may have some advantages to 93rd Street, and which would, of course, require another hearing, such as this one, with those folks alerted as well. Howard?
Rich has one. I'm not sure.
You know, the only thing I want to say is just a strategic thing for all the people in the room. Ultimately, 6 of us vote, and we're all giving up our evenings to be here. We're all volunteers, and having a certain amount of decorum and treating the process with respect is something that's important. So you've had your chance to speak. Let us have a chance to speak without yelling and screaming at people, because you're ultimately trying to convince us. So that's my strategic advice. And if you come back for full board in a few weeks, you'll want to do the same thing. And just recognize, you know, we're volunteers. We're trying to get to the right decision.
Mark?
Thanks. I am not a member of this committee, so, but I am a member of the Youth Education and Libraries Committee, and in fact,
committee member.
that's right. And I'm actually now the co-chair of that committee. And that probably happened because I believe strongly in public education. I believe very strongly that children need to play outdoors at least once a day. It is absolutely an imperative. While they have gyms, the gym is usually programmed every last minute of the day to get as many children as much exercise as we possibly can. So using the gym for recess means that classes that'll have organized phys ed would lose out. And that's not a good solution as far as I'm concerned. Play streets have worked in many locations, and we should not ignore the learning that has come from that. The options of going to distant locations which require field trip-like escorts don't work in a limited time, because 30 minutes is really 20 minutes, and if you spend 10 getting there and back, then that's your recess. The idea of adding teachers, I would love to add teachers for any purpose whatsoever. Unfortunately, teachers are assigned to schools based on the enrollment on a per-pupil formula, and that simply will not fly. I would love any option to do that, even for this, and that would be a great thing. I will say that public schools do a much better job than private schools about monitoring children in these kinds of environments. So I'm not concerned that the ambulance, and I'm a guy who had a heart attack, so I take very seriously the concern that was raised here. But I believe that by the time the ambulance responds, the school safety officers will be able to clear the street. We've known that for some time. My concerns are, though, that I think that your concerns about the appropriate use of school property are well-founded. The nature that parking lot, this parking lot over here, which is contiguous with but separated by a fence from the what looks like the larger of the basketball courts. I think that's a better solution than the street. Not winning, friends. I also note that the DOT has lectured us on 107th Street about the use of 108th Street because it has a public parking garage. I believe both 92nd and 93rd Streets have public parking garages, and therefore I don't know that we're going anywhere with this proposal if the DOT continues with that policy. It might make a little bit...
Are there more of those on 93rd than 92nd Street?
So far I can only find one. There's one underneath the Trinity School, right? That ball field is actually the roof of a garage. And I believe that there's one under that construction mess on the corner of Columbus and 93rd. There might be another in that block. I'm not sure about that. 2 on 93rd. Okay, thank you. So that's a concern that, just in terms of the viability of the proposal from the next folks down the line, I think we have to look at carefully. And that might, even if DOT were to find its way to approving this, in the exhausting administrative remedies first, and I'm going to be the enemy of the school superintendent for saying this, but removing the parking and using that space, boy, that seems to make an awful lot of sense to me.
Mark, can I just interject?
Yeah, please.
I think we all agree with that, but
Yeah.
the question is that even a possibility? That's the issue. That's a no-brainer, to be quite blunt.
Yeah.
But if it's not a possibility, we still have the issue with the.
And how much time would be necessary to put that into effect?
Yeah.
And would we have to replace those 20 spots, and can we get 20 street spots?
They would get the placard, I think.
They would get
Do you know this?
It's the hub. I don't know. It's the hub of the district administratively. So a lot of teachers, parents are checking in there, and they have those permits because they're going to a lot of different schools in the district, and they're given those permits so they can get to those places quickly. They're often dealing with multiple kids and multiple locations. So while it sounds like a great idea, and it might be a long-term solution, I'm not sure bureaucratically if it can happen within, but it's basically a temporary ask.
And are those spots reserved for those 20 people? Or is it
Part of it
first-come,
is
first-
that, as Marisa was saying, a principal, and remember the district goes from 122nd and 5th,
Yeah.
59th Street or 61st Street and West End at this point. And so when the superintendent calls a meeting of principals, sometimes those principals, in order not to be spending their entire day on public transportation, will drive from point to point. And that's what some of that.
So this is an unusual building in that it serves as the administrative office for school district.
Yeah.
Unlike other,
almost-
it's also,
it almost
because it's a
makes more sense.
co-located school, and maybe I just want to add a little context to some of the understanding of the construction. I know the construction has been a huge problem for the neighbors, and because it's school construction, legally it has to happen after hours, which unfortunately means because they have after school, they really don't, they show up at 4, but they don't start work till 6, and they go to midnight. And I know there's just been lots of issues, obviously, with that. But, I mean, I have to say that it's a co-located school. There's 3 schools in that building, and those 3 schools have worked very, very hard together to figure out a way to deal with that space while this construction is going on. It's not just impacting the neighbors, it's severely impacting the school. So I think everyone needs to have a bit of empathy and sympathy for each other. It's a difficult situation for everybody. And so I want to just put some context. They've been working together for a long time to figure out the gym schedule, the cafeteria schedule, the yard schedule. So I don't think, none of this is willy-nilly. This has all been thought out. It seems like the yard schedule, the way it's working for the largest school in the building, and have school for children, it's just not quite working for them. So I wish they had come to our office first and we could have talked about it a bit. I think there's really a communications issue here. It feels like this Community Board 7 should have really been the last stop, and there were a bunch of stops to make before that. But maybe we can have those conversations going forward. You know, we've heard there are a lot of issues brought up. I feel like in talking to the Department of Transportation, in talking to the police department, in talking more with neighbors, we can work through a lot of those concerns. So I think there just needs to be more communication around this. But I just wanted to add some context. A lot of what's going on at the school is completely out of the school's control. The way that the school construction authority sets up their construction zone, the way they've mapped out the yards, the way they do their schedule is completely out of control of the individual schools.
Can I make a suggestion? That we we withdraw this application and they come back after they've gone through the process. If they're willing to withdraw and come back. And in the meantime, I think.
But isn't that a time issue?
Yeah, I mean, we're dealing with 6 months. If that's going to push it off 2 months, that kind of kills the point.
The school year starting.
Yeah.
The school year starts, what, January? Yeah.
Well, yeah. They're back in
Start January.
So I think that you need a.
All right, then let's keep moving. I totally agree that the parking in a schoolyard is a really bad thing, and whether it's a separate letter or part of the resolution.
I'd like to just submit a separate resolution that
Yes.
should be eliminated, regardless of what happens.
Right, I think it should be separate.
It should be returned to a schoolyard.
Right, right. And I think that probably should be separate.
Yes.
Okay, the other thing I wanted to say is that I lived on a block that had a street closing, and it was in front of PS 199. They ran it very, very well. It was when the center school was there, and they also had the children with disabilities. On 70th Street between West End and Amsterdam.
Eastbound street.
It was eastbound.
Right. This is the only westbound street in our
I
neighborhood.
understand. I'm just, excuse me, I'm not. It was very well run. It was very well organized. And, I appreciate that this is a whole different situation. Excuse me, I didn't talk when you guys were talking.
She's the chair of the board.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a big dilemma what to do, but the children do need outdoor time.
Can we ask you a question on this subject, this particular subject?
No.
No, I'm sorry, the public has spoken. We're volunteers here. As Rich pointed out, you want us to vote for you, and you're pissing everyone, no, you're pissing me off. I don't speak for everyone.
Me too.
Neither do you. I wasn't gonna say anything, but they're not. You make me want to vote against you for no good reason, except you're annoying me.
When we dealt with other play streets, there were some methods of operation that I have not heard this school say they would use. For instance, I heard, and correct me folks from the school if I'm speaking incorrectly, but I heard you say one end of the block would be staffed, the block that, obviously, the Columbus Avenue end of the block, but nobody would be at the Amsterdam end of the block. I understand that, but when they see the block is closed, people could try to come in the other way if there's no traffic. And I'm just wondering what the idea about staffing the Amsterdam end of the block is. And are the folks in the street in constant direct contact with the administration in the school building? If somebody needs an ambulance or an accessoride or whatever, and they can tell you the time, can they reach someone in the street and have the street open in time for those situations?
Yeah. I meant that school safety would be the one manning the barrier where the cars or the ambulance would have to. Not that we wouldn't man both ends. Like, at the time, we were talking about school safety. So they would be the ones who would open the street. Like, no teacher would say, I'm opening the street now. And yes, we have, school safety would be out there. We have constant contact. We also have administration in the yard. We have assistant principals at times at recess, and the principal also does recess towards 17.
And when you say constant contact, you mean if somebody calls the school,
Yeah.
they can call someone in the street?
Yes. No. One in the street, one in the building.
A delay is as much as a denial.
Right.
So I think we have to vote
I don't
today.
agree. No, a month to month, no matter what. I don't
No,
agree.
maybe they can come before.
No, it'd be February instead of February, March, April, May, June, so that's still better.
And who's to say approval tonight means the thing is in effect in January? Who's to say that?
Yeah, they got a lot of bases to cover.
Yeah.
There's a lot that has to be.
We might get more.
We need
Why don't you lay it over?
What,
I want to speak with the Trader Joe's folks and see what their hours, what their deliveries are going to be like, what streets they plan to use, how frequently, what size. I mean, I know that Trader Joe's uses the big 80-foot things, but I want to know how many of them, where they're coming from, what direction are their deliveries coming from.
There's all questions for DOT.
But they don't have the answers, so.
Well, but once we give an approval, if we do, then it goes to DOT, and they ask those questions.
Excuse me. Wait, please, this is our discussion.
We have a vote on the.
This is our discussion.
On my resolution, we call upon.
Yes.
The Board of Education to return what they turned into a parking lot back to a playground.
Education.
Okay.
Well, this is separate from.
This is separate. I just want to get these
Yeah.
out of the way. All those in favor? 6. All non-community board, non-transportation committee members. 2. Okay, so that passed. So we have that.
That.
Okay. That was a very, very good idea. Thank you.
Marissa?
Can we ask you?
Let me just
No,
ask, let me
excuse
ask
me,
the
you can't ask any
representative
questions.
of Councilmember Rosenthal a question. Being that this is a time-sensitive issue, could your office, as well as the community board, speak with District 3 about at least a temporary cessation of that parking to allow for the use of that space as a play area?
Of course. I think there's lots of ideas that we can get at. That's one of them. We can get a better sense of how feasible that is, how doable that is. I don't know, again, this is the administrative center of the district, and I don't know.
I'm recognizing all 8 of us went for it, and you could have there was the Solomonic, you could cut it in half and maybe use half of it.
Or they could use a public lot for a project.
I wouldn't assume that because we have access to that road, we're going to be able to use it during these times. The school construction plans have set, what their staging areas are. They have very, very strict safety issues around the kids. They have the perimeter extended quite far out into the yard. So I don't know that if you're seeing it empty doesn't mean that SCA hasn't extended their safety perimeter out into the yard because they're working on the roof. So I think we're making some assumptions that way.
Right.
Good. I just want to make 2 points, 2 quick points. One is we all agree on the school parking on the school lot. I think we need to treat that as a separate issue. If that can happen instantly and we should see what can be done soon, that would be great. This is a separate issue, and there are 2 factors here. One is it's extremely time sensitive. The second is that there's a lot of information we still need. What I would propose is that we push it off to have a pre-meeting before the full board meeting to talk through so that we have a few weeks to get answers, and then we can have a vote. So we're not delaying it a month, but we're giving a few weeks before we get an answer.
And the community could speak again at full board.
Yeah, but we've heard from the community. We can get more answers. We can have a pre-meeting, have a vote, get it to the full board in January.
Maybe we'll get more info.
Good. Do we need a vote on that? Is that something?
If you're tabling something, you don't need a vote. The
So
chairs
we're-
can do it.
Okay.
Right. So we will table this. We will have a meeting a pre-meeting before the full board meeting for January. And we're going to make a list of the information we need to get in the interim.
And just so
in order to
the
decide on
community
this.
knows, we did receive many emails that we have printed out for everybody, for the folks that could not be here tonight.
Andrew, just a point of clarification, you're tabling this item, you're gonna have a pre-committee meeting before the full board meeting, and at that time, you're gonna pass a resolution that you're presenting to the full board. And this group and our neighbors should come to the full board meeting at Road of Shalom and speak during the public session.
Absolutely.
But when will we know what's in your resolution?
We'll be voting at 6:25. But you should be in touch with Roberta. Roberta Seamer is the chair. She's the person who will be coordinating and has offered several times to meet with you all and, keep you apprised and help you get organized so that everybody gets a chance to speak and have their voices heard.
I used to be
without it being a
assistant
rabble
district
rouser.
manager of Community Board 7. I understand
It
the
doesn't show.
process. Who is the district manager now?
Penny.
Okay, thank you.
And if we get all the information that we need earlier than that day, we will of course let you folks know.
Great, thank you.
Marissa, would Helen's office have a chance to meet with the school? Do you think we should have?
Yeah, maybe we'll have some great solution in the interim, and then this whole thing will be.
I think National Children is an excellent school. I'm sure. I trust them when they say they can move children and they can do what they need to do with those kids. And I'm sure that they can look at the options, about what's possible within the school and right around their children. There may be something around
Like the parking.
again, because it's completely out of here.
Okay, I think we have a plan.
I don't think it's fair.
Thank you all
Thank you for coming.
and for your opinion.
Thank you. But you know, when the
Okay, can you, if you're going to be talking, please,
we have more business.
because we have a little more business. Okay,
People,
what's next?
if you could go outside to talk. I need you all to go outside to vote.
No, the meeting is not over. We're still live with other stuff, and we need to get home, so please leave.
Okay, Riverside update.
You want me to get you back the mic?
What was the next item? What is the next item?
Can you move up so you can hear?
Riverside Drive?
If we're going in order, yeah.
What happened to the Green Market?
Aaron Biller
I got
from
here later.
Neighborhood in the
Oh, I got
90s
his
is
antennas,
here
yeah.
and has some issues regarding Riverside Drive that he has previously submitted to the DOT. And Colleen from DOT is here. Yeah, you have. All right, so is Colleen want to speak? Or?
Who's speaking?
Yeah.
Several issues that we brought up regarding the service road of Riverside Drive. Right there, great.
Oh, okay. I actually came here almost a year ago, in January, about the service road.
Could you hold on for 1 second? Excuse me! We're trying to hold a meeting here. Please leave if you're talking and not paying attention to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. So I was here before about the service.
That's on
road.
record.
Riverside Drive, the corridor I live on is between 97 and 100. It was between 98 and 99. There's an active park entrance at 99. And there was previously nothing there indicating a pedestrian crossing. We've got a pedestrian crossing. No one stops there. I have been almost hit pregnant. People don't care. They speed because there's nothing stopping them from the light at 97 until the stop sign at 100. It's helping people over. There's a lot of people with kids, elderly people walking their dogs, and we get a lot of drivers trying to bypass the light on the main Riverside Drive using our service road, not as a service road, but as a shortcut. So I know. I've spoken with her several times. I know the DOT did a study for a stop sign. They claimed the study said there wasn't enough traffic, pedestrian, vehicular, whatever, to warrant a stop sign. However, I will say my doorman saw the DOT car out there for about 30 minutes, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm like, I don't think that's enough time to, do a full study. So basically, we feel like stop sign would be the best option. I don't understand how we can't get a stop sign at that intersection when 102 and 103 at stop signs at the intersection. The can't stop sign, speed bumps, like what they have, put in, I guess, on 91.
92, 93, and 94.
Yeah, that would be anything to slow down the traffic. It's just, 99, where the park entrance is, would be, I think, one of the best places. There's also at 98, because a lot of people speed through there, and there's like a little bit of an opening in the fence. It's not a true pedestrian crossing, but there's so many people coming in and out of kids and dogs and everything, kind of freaking out. But you've got people just speeding as soon as the light
So the
comes green.
unsafe, let's get this clear for the minutes. The unsafe place that you are referring to is 97?
It's, yeah, really 90, I mean, it's between 97 to
I live on
100.
97 at Riverside. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The service road begins at 97. Correct.
Right.
I'll
Yeah, sure. I'm getting out of breath.
Yeah, no, I can see.
I can see.
Okay, so Riverside Drive was designed, Olmsted Bow designed, they followed the river. It's a swinging thing, which is an important thing to understand. It has a lot of topography to it, and unfortunately, the traffic patterns are kind of erratic. So, maybe at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you see a lot of people on that particular stretch. Like maybe on a good day on a weekend, it's very, very busy there. And then unfortunately, the DOT doesn't come out and really see what the pattern is. But people are using the park, and this was the original part of Riverside Park. What was not original was, the Henry Hudson Parkway. There used to be a way to get on the Parkway at 95th and Riverside. And it used to be a way if you were very unsafe, true. And you used to also be able to make a right turn from going northbound on Riverside Drive. You could turn, again, very unsafe because it's a service road, from the main road to 95th, then to go down to 96th West End and get on the Parkway. Eliminated. So what happened was, people going northbound Riverside Drive, if you want to get to the Parkway, you have to go up to 98th Street now and make a right turn. So the law of unintended consequences. There's been a drastic increase in traffic along 97th and 98 because people are making that turn. There's a big sign there. If you want the Henry Hudson Parkway, come up here, make a turn. People on 98th Street are burdened with that. But a lot of people discovered, wait, if the Parkway is busy, why don't I just continue down this service road, ignore the yield to pedestrians, which some people don't really understand. And unfortunately, when you're a pedestrian and it's a very tight box, you're coming out of the park, people can't see you, and one of these days, somebody is simply just going to get killed because a driver ignored them. The stop signs are a better deterrent. It's very hypocritical that the city, if you go to Riverside Boulevard, there's nobody there. There's nobody there, but there's a few millionaires, I imagine. It's a very wealthy area, and they've got stop signs all over the place. Their stop signs have stop signs. You can't even go down 71st Street because 71st Street is cut in half. They pretend it's still a dead end. I mean, it's amazing. We just don't seem to have the clout. So there are two cities, and there seem to be two approaches here.
So I don't think safety has anything to do with cloud, to be honest with you, Aaron. Here's the issue. So we'll
give you a mic.
Sure, I don't need a microphone. So the issue is that originally we looked at Riverside Drive Service Road, and what we did, we installed enhanced safe crosswalk markings. With enhanced crosswalk markings, stop signs are not eligible because at the time when we did the study, there were not sufficient pedestrians crossing at that location or the locations where we have the enhanced crossing.
Even though it was a park entrance.
Even though it was a park entrance, yes. So that was done about 2 years ago. However, I mentioned to Melissa and I mentioned to Aaron that it's every 3 years we would initiate a new study to look at stop signs. I'm sure the traffic pattern has changed, the pedestrian level have increased, and we will revisit the stop sign. In the meantime, what we have done is that we've looked at speed hump studies. As you know, we've installed quite a few speed humps on Corridor Riverside Drive. We've also recently approved one between 97th and 98th Street. And I explained to Melissa that we do have a pending speed hump study that's between 99 to 100 streets. Now, when it comes to installing speed humps, we just cannot install a speed hump at a specific location because the constituent asks us to do so. There are particulars that go with installing speed humps. For example, the width of the roadway, if there's a manhole cover, it has to be a certain distance away from another speed hump. So those are the criteria that we look at. And again, we will revisit the area for a stop sign, you know, when the year is out. And, you know, we cannot install the speed hump on 97th and 98th because our crew is out of season, so it will be installed in spring of next year. So that's the story.
Can I just ask what the eligibility requirements are for a stop sign and why you can't have a stop sign if there's the enhanced pedestrian crossing?
You know, that's a very good question. And I think I did respond to the board on that, but I can't recall what it was. But there is a criteria that's followed with the uniform manual traffic device that was met, and we couldn't have both at the location, which is the enhanced, because the whole point of having an enhanced crossing is that motorists will see it, they will respect it. There is a sign that says it's a pedestrian crossing.
No, they don't.
Well, you know, again, if they don't respect it, then that's an enforcement issue.
I know.
And you're
But we don't have
there's a lot of speeding. There's a lot of speeding. If there's a lot of speeding occurring on Riverside Drive, then NYPD needs to take a look at that and see what they can do.
But realistically, they don't. They won't.
Well,
If this is a particular location that is known,
for high
where,
speeding.
no, for speeding, could we get at least a dummy camera or something like
We
that?
don't install dummy cameras, but it would definitely be a good location for a camera. But again, we only have X amount that we allocate, you know, that citywide. So it ideally would be a great
What's the
location.
problem with a stop sign? It's so inexpensive.
It has nothing to do with expense. It's all about awards and criteria that's
So-
involved.
Sorry, one other thing, the intersection that I'm talking about is between 98 and 99, because the park entrance is right there at 99. If you put a speed bump between 99 and 100, that's after the park. That's not going to do any good. It's supposed to be the whole time we've been talking.
The whole time we've been talking, yes,
Yeah,
2 years. You kept mentioning 99 and 100. That's the whole time we've been talking.
No, I mentioned just our corridor, which.
So what is the corridor?
It's
The corridor is 97 to 100. That's
97 to 100.
But the intersection where the park is 99. I've taken photos, I've taken videos of it. Like, it's pretty clear where I'm talking about.
What is the corridor that you would like us to look at?
The corner?
The corridor.
The corridor, 97 to 100. But the park entrance is on 99 to 98.
And it's also access to a bus stop. You go down the
Oh,
stairs,
right, you have to go down the
and
stairs.
you need access if you want to take the M5 bus north and south. That's an access.
And
Yeah, Colleen, would somebody getting stuck at that intersection change your criteria at all? Or would that play into
It
it?
wouldn't change our criteria at all because it's federal guidelines that we follow.
Well, does the feds require you to follow it, or do you just decide to follow it?
It's a federal guideline that we follow.
Because we get federal funding.
Wait, the federal guidelines says you can't put in a stop sign where there's a safety problem?
There are X amount of criteria that you have to follow when it comes to looking at surveying, putting a stop sign. And again, I don't have familiar with it. I will share it with the board. So I don't want to say something that I'm not familiar with. But we did look at this, and I did share the information with the board when we initially installed it.
Okay, but there's just something I don't understand. If there's a safety issue on a corner, the federal government says you can't put in a stop sign to enhance safety.
I didn't say that the federal government said you can't. We did the enhanced crosswalk marking.
Is this a Trump thing or?
I think it'd be really helpful just to look at the 3 blocks. Can we put the screen down?
Yeah.
This will take 30 seconds and you know, I'll show it on Google Maps and you'll get a sense of the 3 blocks. So this is going from Riverside up at Riverside and 97th up the service road. Yeah, so you're on Riverside. It's this like winding speed trap or speed track. There's no stop sign at 98th Street.
Nope.
Or, I'm sorry, 98th Street.
Go back a little bit. We need to come back.
I don't think.
We need to look north, not south.
No, she wants. So at 98th Street.
This little piece here is just, it's not really supposed to be crossing, but people cross there. But they shouldn't, and we would not encourage people to cross.
Why do
I
they
know,
cross?
but they still do this.
But you see, you also have.
And then again, continuing the tour. So continuing the tour, we keep going straight. Let me talk. So you keep going up. And it's just this winding track. Again, no stop sign at 99th Street.
And there's the park.
Yeah, there's an entrance to the park. Yeah, so you've got this entrance coming out on a road that has no barrier, no stop sign. And people are walking out, and it's a curvy road, and you can see how it's like a tunnel. So cars just will speed up it.
Turn it so we can look further east.
Yeah, like here, the concrete little entrances to the park, someone actually crashed there.
It's also a really weird entrance to the park because if you're walking south on the sidewalk, the inclination is to cross over, but
Is that 99th Street now?
it's the last entrance from 99th Street to 97th Street. And it's that winding long hill. So if you want to get into the park from 99th Street and go south, you have the choice of walking down that long winding hill and walking all the way around or cutting through. And there's
people are going to cross there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a crosswalk there now?
If you enter here and go down to the heart, to the main part of Riverside Drive, is there a corresponding entrance to the heart of Riverside Park there?
No.
Hang on.
I don't-
I can show you right now.
And so you keep going up, but a lot of people go down. If you're parked anywhere from 97th Street up to 100th Street and you're coming down on 99th Street, you're going to want to go down that way. And then you keep going north, you're still winding around. Now granted, these pictures are from May 2016, so it doesn't show any new paint or anything, but there's finally a stop sign. So you're going 3 full blocks.
Doesn't help though.
Yeah, but you're giving cars 3 blocks to accelerate from 97th Street all the way up to 100th Street. Even though people are coming out of the park with no visibility, as the cars are speeding up, going around the curve.
Let me ask you a logistical question. If you're on that section of Riverside Drive rather than on the main part of Riverside Drive, is it inferred that you're there because you want to turn on one of these cross streets, or are you there to make time that you couldn't make on the main drive?
Yeah, it gets a lot of spillover traffic.
I can't believe you can go faster on this little thing than on the heart of Riverside.
Well, no, but what happens is when the main road is backed up, cars will see, you'll be driving north.
In the PM rush, in other words.
Yeah, and you'll see that the main Riverside Drive is backed up, so you hop on the service road, and if there's no one in front of you, you just speed up and you can accelerate for 3 blocks going around the blind curve. And then you keep going, and then there's no stop sign again until here. Yeah, okay.
Okay, there's someone who's raising their hand patiently, so let me.
Sure.
Thanks. My name is Chris Emery. I live on 99th between left and the other side. If I could have a couple points of clarification and reiteration. The crosswalk issue, I think, should be irrelevant to the lack of pathway in 98. There's no reason why
any intersection, this, in this sort of neighborhood, in Manhattan, by the way, you get fast turning traffic turning right on 98, and while there is a stop sign at 100, those of us who live around there know that people go through that stop sign full speed, and that is even less visibility for people crossing the private highway or across Riverside. I think I would like to discard with the notion that any sort of crosswalk designation precludes the meaning of the word for a stop sign. It's an intersection in Manhattan where there is a lot of foot traffic. There should be a stop sign at every single crosswalk. Otherwise, all it does is encourage speeding, encourage fast turns, everything that we know is a problem. And I think this is a policy. This is not a warning system. This is not what's the pedestrian count. Is there an activity? It's a campground. In dense neighborhood, bordering on the park, several access points to the park. I do a favor request for stop. Have to get beyond typical old school warrant and look, follow what should be consistent in policy. And we're actually doing vision growth. That's actually a thing. We know there's safety controls there. There's no reason to have them.
Okay, I just wanted to add to the conversation that when you go down the hill from 99th Street, there is an entrance. You know how at Riverside Park at that part, it's sort of like a 2 levels. A lot of Riverside Park is that way. There is an entrance to the lower part of Riverside Drive, more or less at 99th Street. The path that we're talking about at 99th Street leads directly to it.
I just, in addition, at 99th Street, I want to echo what Chris said, but would you consider putting in a curb extension so that because you have people exiting the park and one step they're in the street, and I'm not sure they're aware of that, and I'm not sure cars. I know drivers are not aware that somebody might be coming out.
I don't think we would do a curb extension. You know what? I will take it back. We'll see what we can do with the stop sign. I'll let our signals division know that this is a big concern with the community.
Why wouldn't you put a curb extension?
Where would you like a curb extension?
On the west, the southwest corner
of what?
99.
99?
And service road.
So that there is at least a refuge for people walking out of the park and and that will slow drivers also. Curb extensions do.
But I don't think this location would be, it's not wide and good, yeah.
It's not wide enough? Well, that's why, this is why drivers slow down. They perceive that it's not wide enough.
It's also, people are walking out of the park right into the street. Yeah, but right now there's just no visibility. They're coming out of the park, going right into a street where cars are driving up to 40 miles an hour. And there's no warning. There's no, from coming out of the park, you can't see the cars. The cars can't see the pedestrians.
We've got to stop thinking about the needs of drivers. We got to start thinking about.
We're way beyond that. We think about the needs of everybody. Okay, we really do.
So why not narrow the street?
I'm thinking, is there maybe parks can put up some signs to indicate that there's an entrance there to the park?
Signs do not help. You need to put something on the ground that's
well,
going to
force. Well, you're just asking us for a stop sign. So I think signs do
help. A stop sign is a little different.
Yeah.
Okay, stop signs for the driver. Park signs.
Yes.
Let me get an idea. Can we go to the Parks Department and ask them to reconfigure the park side of that entrance so that there's more daylight for a pedestrian to at least see that they're in danger? Because it is very.
I don't know how you do that.
I understand that, but this way the pedestrian can't see and the driver can see. At least one side
you
can
see as a pedestrian, but you don't know what they're going to do. So you kind of have to jump out there in front of the car to make sure they see you, or just wait till they fly by. I mean, we can see them; they can't see us.
Also, as the co-chair of the Parks Committee, I can tell you, Parks does not have money.
What I was thinking more in line is a sign that would clearly indicate that there's an entrance to the park. What I was thinking more in line was a sign that would say, this is an entrance to the park, so that motorists are aware of it as well. I mean, that's one thing. But again, I will do this at the stop sign.
Colleen, a sign that may say, slow down, park entrance?
Yeah, something like
A
that.
stop sign.
I'd rather stop than slow down. Yeah.
It's no international.
Yeah, and that's no.
But But you know what, you're absolutely right. A stop sign is strong, it's deterrent.
Yeah.
But you know what, in some cases, motorists do ignore it. Okay.
Well, they are
They
certain
do
to ignore it when there's no stop sign. That's a guarantee.
But
If it
yeah,
doesn't
but the point
exist.
of having an enhanced crossing is that you have the high visibility crosswalk marking. There clearly is a sign that states that it's a pedestrian crosswalk. So it's all about compliance, and that clearly hasn't gotten to motorists yet. They have not, understand
Well,
that
this
yet.
is getting
It's not
there
yet.
fast.
It's compliance. That's
I have
what it is.
a resolution.
One second. Colleen, before Riverside Drive splits into the service road, when all traffic is on the main road, south of this area, is there any signage along the drive, because I'm trying to recall now, I can't, advising motorists that to stay on the main road for
No,
streets north of, nothing like that?
I have a, Maria.
I just have a question.
Marissa.
Marissa, sorry.
You said that the 3 years ago on the shop, and you were doing these studies, you used the opportunity at the stop sign. What's that time exactly? Is that January 1st of the year? December 31st, 2018?
Well, I'd have to check exactly when it
It
was
would be next
denied.
summer.
It could be spring, it could be summer. Yeah, it could be spring or summer.
Spring or summer, when you started these
Study.
studies, how long did the study take?
It would take maybe about 3 to 6 months.
So,
Yeah.
in the best scenario, if you did the study and you concluded that you could put a stop sign there, it would be there in January 2019.
No. If it's concluded that it's warranted, that a stop sign is needed, it would go in immediately. We would not wait, a month or so to put it in.
But it was denied as of like September, not even, it'll have to be this coming September 23 as well. So it would be about.
Sure.
There are any number of. What's your name, please? Jonathan. Last name? Linden, no, sorry. I don't live in this area. Anyway, there are any number of people in planning you could point to talk about traffic studies and things like that. Not to mention organizations. And I think this might be a stupid proposal, but is there any mechanism for putting in the stop sign and then doing a traffic study? As opposed to putting that, or just not doing one at all, honestly, because really like.
Well, can we also just clarify that there's nothing that precludes a stop sign? There's nothing unique about 98th Street and 99th Street that requires any different treatment from the NBCCD or any other DOT policy. So it's really a matter of, can we acknowledge there's a speeding and safety issue and just do it, as opposed to saying you need to justify it because it's somehow incompatible. There's nothing unique about the crosswalk.
Yeah, but what about
It's
Do you
a normal
need a
crosswalk, and every other intersection has a
Do you need a,
crosswalk.
if the,
So it's not unique, it just needs a stop.
if traffic is, if it's a westbound street and traffic can only go to the right or north, do you need a stop sign for the traffic south of that intersection? You really need it on eastbound streets where traffic can just continue, don't you?
I would argue that you
need it both.
every block, because the problem is
You need much more on it.
no stop signs for 3 blocks means speeding is encouraged. So there are stop signs where 99th comes down the hill and has to turn right, which are technically upheld either. But by not having a stop sign on the service road, we're just giving a free-for-all to speed unnecessarily. And there's precedent at intersections north where the same situation occurs. The intersection.
And they don't even have crosswalks.
Okay.
This, or an entrance into
This
the
is a
park.
simple issue. I have a resolution saying that there's an imminent health issue, and we call on DOT to put a stop sign on 98 and 99.
Great.
End of
Let's go.
story.
Let's go
Does
on
anyone
it.
second that resolution?
I second it. All those in favor? 5. All those opposed? All those abstaining?
I didn't vote.
Oh, you're in vote, okay. Non-committee members? 2. Okay, so it passes,
And it's calling on it to happen immediately. No studies,
happen
just put up
immediately, yeah.
put up stop signs.
That is great, thank you.
Well,
What's happening?
No,
The resolution
that's
doesn't work with
request.
stop signs. Okay, the next issue, we need to keep moving.
95th and Riverside Drive. If you could pull this up, this would be very helpful. Very quickly.
We lost the screen.
Okay,
all right. 95th and Riverside Drive, you have a number of, it's a very busy intersection in the morning. Cars coming off of the Henry Hudson form 3 or 4 lanes that try to shoehorn in to 95th Street westbound. That's a school block.
Don't we have an existing resolution on this? We have an existing resolution request with the DOT. And an updated request to look at it again.
We do. Both in Colleen, and I don't know what originally when I went out with Colleen, she said to put up the bolsters because people are they're cutting the turn because the way the drive swings away. They cut the turn. You've got 3 or 4 lanes of traffic shoehorning in. If you're a pedestrian trying to cross north-south,
don't do it.
It's murder.
Don't do it.
It's suicidal. So the question is,
We have several resolutions regarding that.
Yeah, we have resolutions. We
so
had
the
a
question
field
is,
trip there.
you know,
We have resolutions on it.
Yeah. So why are we doing it?
We meaning
DOT.
When was the latest resolution? I'm sorry.
2 years, 3 years ago?
We're actually talking to state about returning the 96th Street and exit from the Henry Hudson
I
Parkway.
remember conversation
You remember
about
that?
Yeah.
We've asked for special lights at 95th and Riverside. We've actually changed some things at 95th and West End to stop speeding down 95th Street. We've asked for certain light treatments at when you get off at 95th and Riverside. We'll send it to you again, Kelly.
You know, don't send it to me. I'll pull it up. I'll find it. I'm sure we have it. I don't know if the board can get a response on it because I mean something like that obviously.
So don't think I'm being facetious.
No,
when
I
say-
know
But
you're not.
Howard has already raised with you. We have like 19
I know,
outstanding.
and you know what, Howard, that list that you gave me, our bike division.
I only limited it to
I
safety.
know, I spoke with them today, and you know
It's
what?
not only bike related.
No, the specific items Howard gave me with you and Mr. Becker, we're gonna come to the board and discuss all of those.
We have that outstanding issue at 97th and West End with the light timing so that you don't speed through 96th and West End and make the turn and get onto the parkway, which would save lives. We've been asking for that one for since Cooper Stock was killed, actually.
Andrew, can I interject for a minute? So when we Riverside Boulevard has not been turned over to DOT. Sue McCoy presented it to Parks at the September meeting. They brought up the boulevard, which is still privately owned, and the 59th Street where the boulevard will connect. So
They require so many Cs of O to be issued before they'll turn over
right,
the
but
boulevard.
they're very close because the 4 and 5 buildings have topped out. So Kenny asked Sue McCoy if they would come back to this meeting. They didn't. We're putting pressure on them to come to the January meeting. And probably DOT wants to be there. Because we should look at it before it gets turned over to the city. Because the problem with the boulevard is that the construction company put up the stop at our cost. At that time, this is what we do. DOT maybe not meet any of the DOT guidelines. The developers, the construction people, out of the goodness of their heart, put up the stop sign, which is really nonsense. So I think.
Can we hire them for Riverside Drive?
That's because they're private streets, that's why they're not under our jurisdiction.
It's not, it has not been turned over to the city. So anyway, I just wanted to, it's really important to look at that in January.
Andrew, I just wanted to ask you, what's the status of the discussions about shutting down 95th Street and living code?
It's on all 3 of our state, the people that cover our district,
our state representatives' radar, and we're trying to get some of them to come to either the January or February meeting and advance the proposal. But they're all aware of it, from Maria Alcantara, I think that's how it's pronounced.
No.
Marisol, I've heard, to Linda and Danny, yeah.
I need to leave. Are we voting on other stuff?
What was the last thing on Riverside you wanted to raise?
Well, there was the issue of the turns on 95th Street, which,
We did.
Colleen said.
Okay, got it.
Got that. I don't feel the speed, I think the speed humps have a limited value, but it's kind of confusing because there's a 25 mile an hour around the curb sign, which is probably when things were faster. I think a 20 mile an hour sign makes no sense.
15?
They do have, they put different speeds like right next to each
What are
other.
you looking for? You have to
I think they have to slow it down at 20 miles an hour.
15.
15? I'll take 15.
Yeah.
I'll
There's
take
just no
15.
need to speed on that road.
You're talking the service
We
road?
have-
Yeah, the
we
service
have- we
road.
have-
What's
You can,
Colleen left?
no,
No,
she
they-
said,
Oh,
my understanding though is that
Four
you can only
schools.
do, you can only do 15 miles an hour if you put in traffic
Well,
limits. You can do 15. but you
is
have
a
to-
speed bump
you have to
traffic
put in
cone?
traffic.
You have schools.
There's speed bumps. So is that traffic cone?
You've got two Montessori schools. You have the glasses.
No, I agree. It should
Okay,
be
okay,
15.
we know that. Ask, can it be done?
Ask Colleen.
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 Please go ahead, I have a very long opinion,
So we were trying to get this, something with the speed on between 91st and 95th. That have it like uniformly 15 to 20 miles an hour.
We're talking the service road
The
again.
service road. The service road. And there was one other thing, which was that there's a no turn sign off of Riverside Drive southbound. It's not being followed. Particularly TLC vehicles have been making it with the equivalent of a U-turn to go down Riverside Drive, northbound service road. And sometimes there's cars coming northbound onto the service road, and we've had numerous, like,
No cars are going the wrong way on the service road?
well, that's the wrong way, but what they're doing is they're making a turn that they can't make
Oh,
around the island that divides where the island narrows, and there's a gap of about 70 feet, let's say, where there's nothing.
and what street is this happening?
This is 91st and Riverside Drive. And the no-turn signs are being ignored, but what's really dangerous is there have been a couple of very, very close situations where they almost T-boned a northbound vehicle that was properly using the service road.
so what are you proposing?
If you could create bolsters to extend out the Joan of Arc Island to 91st Street, that would dissuade people from using that for the U-turn. I can send you a picture of it.
How, can you add that into the resolution?
Yes.
All right, great, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen, appreciate your work, thank you.
The other issue that is on the agenda, the person is not here for, so we will be adjourning the meeting.